We just went through probably the most important do or die presidential campaign in the history of this country. We were right on the edge of losing this country completely. We're in disaster state and we aren't out of it yet. Meanwhile, the worst case of fraud ever perpetrated on the American people, the theft of taxpayer dollars, was taking place during this campaign, and the Republican Party never picked up on this. A criminal case of fraud so horrible it would have destroyed the Walz Harris campaign. It had been going on for years, and the Republican Party never picked up on it, even though the feds have been involved. How did the Republican Party of Minnesota go to sleep so badly on this? They're supposed to be fighting to take back that state. They're snoozing. What the hell were these people doing? I've worked a lot of campaigns. I worked years as a lobbyist. I've done a lot of lobbying. I've worked inside the parties. I was working inside the party back when Reagan first ran for president. I know how these things work. I've worked in a lot of campaigns. When you're on the inside of your state Republican Party, when you have the meetings, they talk about the dirt that they've got on their opposition. It's called opposition research. You go digging. Remember back when Mitt Romney was running? The guy was so friggin' clean, they had to go back to 8th grade when him and some other friends bullied a kid and they cut his hair. That shows you how far a campaign can and will dig for opposition research to get the dirt. Look how deeply they dug into Trump. They dug into his whole life. Look at the stuff they pulled out of the shadows on this guy. And the Republicans didn't do that to their opposition candidates. Opposition research is a very important, critical part of any campaign. It can end the opposition. The Republicans did not do it, or they did it and skipped over this on purpose. Tim Walz was a horrible governor, a hated governor, in a state that was running the biggest fraud scheme in the history of the country. It was already being prosecuted in pieces, and this never got brought up. The guy was a candidate to be the vice president of the United States. He almost made it. And Republicans never looked into the background of Walz or what was going on in Minnesota. If you're wondering why this matters now, it's because it raises a lot of questions, a lot of suspicions about the Republican Party at the state and the federal level. If nothing else, it displays extreme incompetence. This is something that we've been dissatisfied about with the Republican Party and the RNC for decades now. This is another fine example of how lousy they really are. Don't they know what the hell they're doing? And where's right-wing media in this? Democrat media, the left-wingers, you know who they are. They are part of the campaign. It's all hands on deck on the Democrat side. It's everybody for themselves. Let's just be entertainers on the right-wing side. They made so many jokes about his bathroom machine requirements for the boys' rooms in schools. They made up his nickname about that. That's how he became Tampon Tim. They make jokes about that endlessly. They made endless jokes about him not being able to load or unload his own automatic shotgun on a staged fake pheasant hunt. They do all that fluff stuff, but where was the real meat? Where was anybody doing the real job, either in media or in the party? This is basic stuff. You look at everything about your opposition candidates. Both of them, this was too big to miss. How was it missed? Is anybody on the right still a professional? Democrats would have never missed this. They crawl up your butt with a microscope. It's like the Republicans standing around the edges just waiting for something easy to fly by. Come on, this should not have been missed by media or the party. Anybody in the campaigns, anybody at any level of the Republican Party. Why didn't any of these feds who were investigating all this tip anybody off? The people who have been getting the convictions for the fraud that they'd already had. This would have been so easy. Right-wing media, the Republican Party, have a lot of explaining to do. You know what Trump could have done with this if he'd have known during the campaign? He could have ruined those people then. This great big nuclear bomb of a campaign killer completely got missed. It was known. Federal prosecutors were up there prosecuting people. Nobody said anything to anybody. No reporter ever got a whisper. I don't believe this. I just can't believe it. I have been in these meetings. Even at the state level it happens. The campaign will tell you, hey, if you hear anything about what this Democrat's doing over there, you got to let us know right away. We need something. We need something. That's what they're always saying. Give us something. We need something to hurt this guy with. That's what opposition research is. It's a very important part of any campaign structure. You have to know your opponent. You have to have the dirt on them. This is the worst dirt anybody ever had on a political opponent, and it got missed by the entire Republican Party of Minnesota and by the entire RNC of the entire country. So why didn't they ever look into the fact that all these Somali programs were exploding in cost and nothing was happening? Doesn't anybody watch the money? Doesn't anybody monitor any of these figures? How could the federal government be sending billions, hundreds of millions, and billions of dollars into Minnesota for these programs and not one Republican noticed it? The program for housing to immigrants, just the housing program, $1 million, started out around 21. In 4 years, it shot to over $105 million. A 400% increase in a couple of years, and nobody noticed. All these Somali people that are living in Section 8 federal housing, they're living there for free. They're buying new cars. They're all driving new cars, and nobody noticed. These people are living like kings on welfare. 88% of them are on welfare. Democrats say 75. All right, 3/4 minimum are on welfare, and they're all driving new luxury cars. They're not getting the stripped down versions. They're buying the things with all the perks. And nobody in Minnesota noticed this. They're sending millions, tens of millions of dollars overseas to terrorist organizations, and that never got red flagged. I thought the federal government was watching these money transfers. You go to the casino, win $1,000, watch what happens. You get nailed before you go out. They watch us. They watch everything constantly. But they're able to send tens of millions of dollars overseas, and it doesn't even draw a red flag anywhere. Even the Biden family got caught with red flags when they were getting all that money from overseas. You know, all those crimes that Pam Bondi refuses to prosecute. Remember, they've already got the evidence. Those charges could have been filed. But it got red flagged because it was too big of money transfers going to a strange-looking place through corporations that didn't seem to exist. So how the hell does that much money get sent from Minnesota, and why do the feds just keep shoveling it in? Nobody is paying attention. Why? I do not believe the Republican Party up there did not know something was wrong when prosecutors are running all over the city busting people. Federal prosecutors actually did bust and convict some people. I don't know the outcome of it. How many of those people just got a slap on the wrist and got turned back loose? I'd love to hear one of these reporters up there follow up on it. One of the reporters with access to the crime records and the court proceedings. I'd love to know what happened to them. Probably still living in America. I doubt if any of them are still locked up. They're probably back on the program, just like that guy that got thrown out of Canada for welfare fraud. Goes out and gets his picture taken with Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz, and then he's ripping off the programs while he's doing it. They had active warrants for deportation, and he's out hugging them at government events. I don't believe the Republican Party didn't know anything at all. They could not be that asleep. So why wasn't the Trump campaign notified that this stuff was going on? What the hell is going on up there? The Republican Party has failed us on so many levels for so long, and this is another example of it happening at the state level. The feds should have known because so much money was going in. But again, a 400% increase in a couple of years and nobody noticed. Nobody is keeping track. That's how all of this stuff happened. That's how those NGOs, all those USAID dollars, the Doge uncovered. That's how all of that happened, because nobody was keeping track. Neither side is keeping track of what happens with our tax dollars. You talk about the national debt being a problem, that's because we're spreading it all over the world. Did you ever wonder how they talk about the wars over there in Africa? They say, oh, these Muslims, they're hacking each other up with machetes, they're killing each other. They just killed 60,000 Christians. And then they show the newscast of it. And this guy's driving around just like they do over there in the sand. They've got newer pickups that are all beat up, machine guns mounted in the back. They're all carrying all this military equipment. Well, you know darn well, if it wasn't for donations from the rest of the world, those people would still be wearing grass skirts or, loincloths made out of leaves. They'd be running around half naked like they were on Wild Kingdom when we were kids. The only difference between now and then is the world has started to donate stuff to them. But they've got millions and billions of dollars worth of military equipment. They got the latest, greatest. They've got bandoliers of AK-47 rounds strapped across their chest, and they're walking around with RPGs. They've got all this equipment. Well, how do they get the money for it? You paid for that. That's how they get the money for that. We are paying for that. Our grandkids are going to be footing the bill on that. They aren't making that money. So how did the Republican Party miss this? This is unforgivable. I want someone to answer the question. I want someone to ask this question. You turn on any news broadcast, anything, Christian broadcasting, Fox News, any of the independents, none of them are talking about how did the Republican Party miss this. It was happening right out in the open. If you go to these organizations that feed, house, help take care of these people, the ones that distribute all these funds, and they're all lefty organizations. But that's who the state and the federal government give this money to. They give it to the lefties to distribute. When you go by one of those buildings that services these communities, all you got to do is look in the parking lot. What are they driving? You can see it. I've seen it in Des Moines, Iowa. I've gone by those places, and I have seen all the new. You see these people getting out with their tribal dress, the little thing wrapped around their head, the long flowing satin gown with 50 different bold, garish colors. You see it. These people, they're immigrants because people don't grow up in America and dress like that. They get out of these brand new vehicles that are fully loaded and they walk into these places. They're swarming with these people. Nobody in Minnesota noticed, even while the convictions were taking place. I do not believe it. Somebody better be asking the questions. Somebody else better be answering. Because this fraud goes a hell of a lot deeper than just the Somalis. It's a failure of every politician in the state of Minnesota and everybody who, like I used to work inside the party, all these people, all these volunteers, all these campaign people, somebody needs to tell us why this wasn't picked up, why the alarm wasn't sounded, why nobody in media asked, why nobody called media and said, hey, this is going on. This stinks to high heaven. There's a lot more going on here than what we've been told. We need to know. We've got to get this right. And if we get this right, maybe God will continue to bless this great country of ours. Thanks for listening.